back, friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and welcome back to part 2 of the Danielle Ford interview. She is the Clark County Board of Trustees for District F, mostly southwestern Clark County, and we've talked all about your life leading up to about 2 years ago. And then this is the meat and potatoes of you being a school board trustee. First of all, quick question. You gonna run again and put yourself through this?
I'm going to.
That's it. Breaking news. You heard it on the Johnny Brew Show first, because I know people have been wondering. Danielle Ford is throwing her hat back in the ring. She's a glutton for punishment.
That's pretty much why, yeah.
I
can't
love it.
Let it go now. Like, I have to see things through or burn everything to the ground.
Are you going to want to become more of a leader on that? Like run for vice president or president of the school board or anything like that? People terming out?
Well, I was supposed to be vice president right now, but we had so many new trustees who created an alliance amongst my enemy and voted me out of being an officer, even though I was next in line for, and up until that, it's always gone through like the little hierarchy.
Right.
And I was even told before, like, no, you can't do that. You have to wait your turn.
Right,
you know?
Right. And we're going to be getting all into who's on whose team, and we're going to get you all caught up with the characters, so that way if you really want to start following, like hypothetically speaking, the CCRP, we all get unified and we're all happy little Republican conservatives, and you're looking for a soap opera, Danielle Ford is going to let you in on all the players so you can pick up. You don't have to watch season 1 and 2. We'll give you the cliff notes. So we're going to get into Danielle Ford's please subscribe. Or if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe, leave comments, tell us what you think. Yada, yada, yada. All right. So let's get into your career as a school board trustee. So first of all, you got in, when were you elected?
2018, I won the election. January 2019, I swore in.
Okay. And even then, I feel like, things like kind of took a turn in 2016 when Trump ran, then Trump won, and then we had the dirty dossier and they were trying to, get rid of Trump because he was crazy or something. And boy, I miss the old days when things were so calm and nice. It feels like after 2018 came, and whatever, the Democrats, I guess, won the House of Representatives, which turned on the impeachment and the investigations, and then everybody on the Republicans got very defensive. It feels like, even though it was crazy in 2016, 17, and 18, come 2019 and 2020, even before coronavirus, it feels like we exploded with this black and white political divisiveness. Yep. And as I've suspected, and now as you've confirmed, you're really not a partisan politician whatsoever. You're just a school board trustee looking out for what's best for kids. I mean, and that's very, we disagree on some things. But again, it feels like the old adage of we have the same end goal, we just have different ways of getting there.
Right.
And I say today's politics, it's no longer the same end goal. And that's why we're so divisive. Mm-hmm. How do you feel the difference that I feel? I mean, you were running in 2018. I don't think everybody was asking Republican, Democrat.
Oh, yeah, they were.
Like, incessant, because I know when Katie Williams, she had to declare as a Republican. She ran on the conservative ticket. Did you run as a partisan, or did you lend? What was your answer when people would ask you?
So actually, when I was considering, I used to be a Republican, like registered.
Especially with your parents and then the military, yada, yada, yada.
Yes, but I've always been like more like socially focused. Yeah, So then when I was considering running, I heard about a program which would like train women to run for office, and it was Democrat like boosted. And so I didn't know that if I wanted to go through this or not, but I was like, if I want to apply or if it's something, I need to be that party. And you can't change your affiliation before you run, like with like has to be 6 months that you're like that. So I did change to Democrat in 2017 maybe.
Right. Young ladies, if you're thinking of running for political office, you contact Alita Benson. She's got a wonderful program.
That's interesting.
Men too.
So I didn't know. I only knew of the one, and I was like, oh, let me just do it to be safe in case I go that route. I decided not to go that route because a lot of it was like, it was more like join our club.
Right.
And it was very like stuff I already knew around like marketing, and they just kind of tell everyone the same thing. Like,
right,
fundraise,
right.
Do this.
Be professional, don't pick your nose, dot your I's, don't misspell on your posts.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to do that. So, I didn't change. So people would like reach out to me and be like, oh, I heard you're Democrat, whatever. But another thing, when you're like going to run, most people would consider who else is running. And so as throwing my name in the race as a Democrat, there was already an establishment chosen Democrat in the race.
And did you have like a campaign manager, or were you
my
doing it yourself?
My close friend was my manager.
Right,
so
it was like the
making
little
calls. Yeah. I kind of give her phone number for like endorsements and stuff, but I didn't get a single Democrat endorsement or Republican. The only people actually that even gave me money was the Sands, and they were like, we never support like Democrats, but you're like a breath of fresh air.
Right, and this is when Adelson was still alive.
Yes, and a property management company, and so some businesses. Even though I went for all of them, I'm like, I'll take anyone's money. I don't care what party you are. I'm not making anyone promises.
That's beautiful.
So people will be like, can we get a guarantee that you would do this or that? I'm like, no. I do support this and that, but we'll see.
Right.
Then I'm like, okay, bye. Let me know if you want to send me a check. And
then a couple of them did.
A couple did,
not
but
too many.
I got not one single actual endorsement. Not from the veterans, even though I was a military wife and I told them my story.
Right.
Not from the trade union, even though I would put trade schools in this whole flippin' city.
Right.
Accessible, equitable, all kids can get to them. Didn't get that. Didn't get the Hispanic, Latinx. I'm Mexican. Didn't get anything.
Right.
because there was already a pre-chosen Democrat person
and that's it.
Who they were already told who to support.
Done deal. The Democrat Party said we're supporting that person.
Yep.
So, and it's a nonpartisan race, so they're allowed to declare early. Because if it's a partisan race, they have to wait for the primary to be over, and then whoever wins the primary, they support. But in a nonpartisan race, there's no rules. So
it was very much like, we know it's nonpartisan, but what party are you? And I was like, I'm a registered Democrat, but honestly, like, I don't like any of them.
Right.
So that's where I am.
Did you vote for Trump in 2016?
No. I have always voted like Gary Johnson. Like,
you're always the third place guy.
Yeah, yes, except for the recent election.
Who did you vote for?
Biden.
How's he doing?
It's fine so far. I don't have any. I am also like I very much believe in, even more than skill set, and trust me, I'm not like a Biden fan, and he wasn't my first choice. Even more than skill set, we need somebody who's going to bring people together. I don't think it's either one of them, but I don't feel like under Trump we were getting there.
So you thought Trump? You thought Trump was more dividing than Biden?
I did, yes.
And that's why you voted for Biden?
Of the two, but I didn't vote for Biden, and it is what it is.
Do you feel like the country was more united in 2021 or 2017?
I don't know. I really don't have an answer to that, because
I'm playing
journal or something.
I'm trying to pick a fight. You're not fighting. You're very good at this.
I'll tell you my answer if I got one.
Right. Well, let me start a fight with you over this because this was very. I was really offended.
Okay.
I know we've talked about this once before as friends. And I asked you what happened there, and you had mentioned, you were wrong or whatever, but part of it could have been subconsciously. You had just come from the National Association of Colored Peoples, the NAACP program, and the next day or the next weekend or whatever, you're at this meeting, And let's hear what you had to say, because this was very offensive, Danielle.
Conversation that we're having right now becoming generalized around safety, and it's two different conversations. We need to have a separate protocol when it is race-based. And there's two different problems that we're experiencing right now. One is our lack of safety protocols, and the other one is the safety of colored students in general.
It seems kind of telling that she didn't even flinch when she said that. Almost like she uses that word in day-to-day conversation.
Who is that?
In her head.
Who is that? With that sponge? What is that, a Brillo pad taped to a guy's face? What is that, Chris Dyer's grandfather? Look how ugly that dude is. And look at his background. He didn't always have a green screen. I wonder if the beard had a... Do you know that guy?
I don't know who that person is.
That dude is the award winner for the most boring conservative podcast in Nevada. He doesn't say Nevada right. It's
Okay.
Nevada, Chris. And yeah, he's my big competition. Yeah.
Are you being sarcastic?
No, he really is.
Sometimes part of ADHD, I don't always pick up on like these
Nobody
like
ever knows when I'm being
subtleties.
so. I get myself in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
And I don't even know how to answer it. He is my biggest competition. He is ugly. He is boring. That's all. That's not sarcasm. No, maybe me calling him ugly and boring is a little sarcastic. But he is my competition, but, you know, I like him a lot. He's funny.
I'm going to go based on the title, Danielle is a racist, to assume, use my deduction skills, that he probably didn't have nice things to say about me, but I'll tell you that I have not watched this or listened to it.
Oh, you're going to love it.
Or
You haven't
anything
seen it?
around it.
First of all, he went to your school for social media, and he thought that would be clickbait.
Oh, and you know what? It worked. Because I saw it pop
There you
up
go.
because I get Google alerts. So obviously, like, I see everything
And
pop
you gotta
up.
see this production.
Okay.
All right, are we ready? You gotta go full screen, full volume, because this production by the PAA podcast and Chris Dyer and that ugly, scraggly, unmaintained, salt and poop colored goatee. I'm glad you got rid of that, Chris. All right, yeah, play tape.
Said that.
These are two different conversations. There's a clear problem with our culture. It's the culture of the country.
Like, what the fuck did I just do? What did I do? I want to take it back.
Yes. Years ago, that last one was probably, I don't even know what that's from, but it was probably something random, like I missed a Pokemon or something like.
Right, are you
I
watching?
don't.
I'm so sorry for saying that.
Kiss it. You want me to kiss your... That's right. Apologize.
I am so sorry for saying that.
I'll say his editing is better than his background.
That Chris, that is gold. I randomly came across one of your videos, and boy, it was great. How do you feel about the production? Tell me.
It's kind of funny. I'm kind of like, how many videos did you watch of my old ass periscopes to find that one piece where it like was the perfect thing?
It was
So
perfect.
How much does he actually know about me? Because I used to broadcast like all the time about awesome stuff. Like,
He actually sent you a message.
when?
Can we go to the message now? It's part of all the photos of the Johnny Brew Show fans' questions. If you go to the last one, or one of the last ones,
Oh, God, there's a
keep
lot.
going. All right, I'm sorry.
Well, can you like paraphrase?
No, we'll see it. We have it ready for later, so no problem. Yeah, I think the Chris Dyer angle is way better and more interesting, but we could talk about your comment there.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard about this before. I only bring it up because people remember it, and I want to give you an opportunity.
I
to explain,
still
because
get
I
phone calls
really-
about it and emails still because you just Google my name and it's like racist.
Right,
Okay.
and I'm not a person of color. Oh, we got the Chris Dyer thing up. All right. Hold on. I gotta put on my glasses. I want to read to you exactly what he said because he's a lot smoother than I am. So maybe I don't want to misquote him here.
Was this to you, like today?
Yeah,
or
no.
yesterday?
So I posted. If you could ask Danielle Ford anything, what would you ask her? And Anna, what's wrong with you? Blowing on my. Just email her. She's really nice. If you're not an asshole, she'll write you back.
She knows that to be true, though.
And I know it to be true too. So Danielle, why don't you tell them your email address? So if anody wants to email you and ask you something seriously,
yeah, it's
be
Ford.
nice.
It's Ford. I have to remember it. Ford DL at nv.ccsd.net.
That was disgusting.
I know.
What is it?
Ford, like my last name. DL, my Danielle Leanne's email
Ford
name.
DL
at nv.ccsd.net.
Very
my trustee.
good. And you could also turn back the YouTube video. If you hit the closed captions, it writes out websites. Nice. Anyway, so Chris Dyer, that guy who I did not know did that piece about you, he said, sup. And he's got a crush. There's this one girl who's in the middle of this soap opera. And he's in love with her. So I said, Chris Dyer, are you cheating on Carrie Ann Buck? And he said he was just inquiring on your situation, keeping tabs, and he wants me to let you know. He says, hey.
Okay, well, all right. Good video. I'm sure it worked out.
And he got rid
good
of
for
his
him.
goatee.
Okay, what about the background? Because, when
He's
I
gotten rid of
see
the
a
background.
random guy with some kitchen background, I think this is the person who is an expert. And
Living with
obviously,
his mom doing a
what he
podcast?
says is credible.
Looking at your 2011 Periscopes?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
obviously this person has a full-time job
He's pretty
and
creepy,
doesn't
right?
live with his mom.
Right. Yeah, he's creepy. I
whatever.
agree. But he did get rid of the goatee.
Hey, I'm a fan of the internet and clickbait, and I do it myself in some other ways, but I'm also a fan of doing things for a positive reason. So
All joking aside, you guys would get along well. He's a funny guy.
I'm friends with a lot of people that did not like me after that. Many people who were not happy
About
with
this.
me after that comment.
Okay, yeah, so go ahead. Go ahead.
First of all, I will always say that I was wrong for that, and I will apologize to anybody who's truly offended. I'm not going to apologize to the dude in his mom's house trying to get $5 in advertising that month. But if there's someone, say a grandma who their grandson was targeted and they haven't heard my apology yet, and she still thinks there's a racist on the board, I will call her right now
Right.
and apologize. It was offensive, and what it was, and here's another mistake I made, was by saying, I'm sorry, I have implicit bias. We all have implicit bias. That's true, but that's not what that was.
Do you want to know something? I cut that out and we're going to talk about it along with the other thing, is that was what I disliked the most.
Well,
you
what
made
that
a
was,
mistake.
that was cultural insensitivity, and you have a right to be careful with how you speak. And granted, there were lights and there were cameras and there was angry people, and I was upset with the way the conversation was going, and I was, all over the place. That still doesn't give me a right to not be careful
to make
with
a faux pas. I mean,
but I also know the historical
you
context.
were literally talking about helping
No, I know. So
with anti-racist policy.
I'm not apologizing for that or the
But
work.
that's my point, is you're literally fighting
Yeah.
to help people of color. And while you're in the middle of that fight, a week after you went to the NAACP, which is colored people, which you heard and said and saw on signs for a couple of days.
Well, decades. Hairspray is my favorite movie, and there's signs, holding up
Right,
it's
so
historical knowledge,
But, and the thing about you fighting for what you were fighting for, making a little faux pas, which could totally end, you've already said, you're a little, you call it ADHD, I might call it ditzy, but, a little aloof.
It's a very gender. We'll talk about that if we talk about sexism.
Yeah, but
we wouldn't
this is
call
my
a
point.
man ditzy for
No,
the same thing.
no,
We call him
Chris Dyer is ditzy.
Scattered or all over the place. So
All right.
here's the thing,
All
though.
right,
I'm
you're all
not
over
sorry
the
about
place.
that.
How about that?
Yeah, I'm not sorry about that at all. I already had my own thing that I was dealing with and trying to be better. And if everybody else wants to make mistakes that we're all going to make, and then they want to be that I didn't do the wrong thing, fine, I don't care. I have a certain set of goals and values. And I'll tell you that when that happened, I was at a place where I should not have been rambling. I know better than to do that. And when I wrote out, you
were still early in your career, actually.
it was 3 months in. And I mean, there's a lot of background to this. You know, there's these parents and they're like very upset, rightfully so. Their kids had been targeted on social media that they're going to be shot. The district was ignoring them for months. You know, the news cameras are there.
Right.
I wanted to get an anti-racism policy in the works at this time.
Right.
And I was other trustees were saying, wait, we need to put, cameras and lighting, though. All kids need safety. And I was like, there's two separate conversations.
Well, okay, but getting into anti-racism or anti-racist policy, and I am really against this. I mean, even the anti-bullying policy. I feel like everything, then we're going to need an anti-LGBTQ policy.
That's going to be under the same policy as anti-racism.
All right, so
it's like anti-hate.
Well, what I'm saying is every time you start classifying kids or people in general, some people are assholes. Mm-hmm. They could make fun of you because you're fat, because you're a girl, because you're a gay, because you're a black person, because you're a Mexican, because you have a big forehead, because you have a Brillo-looking goatee. Jerks are jerks.
Right.
Like, what makes it less jerky for me to make fun of your shoe size than me making fun of her race? I mean, they're
because
both
it's your
horrible.
Identity, and so certain
you can't
things
change your foot.
But
you were born a size 12s. You're a girl.
Okay. So even in the real world outside of education, if I go and mess up your car because you're a jerk, okay, that's not good. I should be accountable, whatever. But if I go mess up your car and leave a racial slur or something, there's a different treatment. So we already have those laws. We already have those policies. You can't go and do a hate crime that's definitely proven to be gay bashing
Right.
or
So an ex-boyfriend keys a girl's car and a white supremacist keys a black person's car. And
because they're black, not just because they got in a fight over their lawn.
Right.
So they get in a fight over their lawn, and he happens to be white supremacist, keys the car. It was about the lawn difference.
So there should be
it's the same thing as I did it to you.
So, like, say that was a school policy. You can't keep cars. And
right, you're in
one
trouble.
guy does it to a girl because she cheated on him. One guy does it to somebody else because he's a Mexican. All right. So as a school policy, you think they should be treated differently?
One person cheated on the other person. They're already in a relationship. They know who they are. The other person is completely separated from that person, and all they did was exist.
All right, so this is twice as bad as
it's
this?
not necessarily twice as bad or anything, but it's different, and it should be treated different because kids need to feel safe at school, and they need to know that my existence as a gay person or as transgender or as black or white or Mexican or whatever.
Okay.
Or female, if someone does it because I'm a female. My
Right.
boyfriend, if I cheat on my boyfriend and he keys my car, I'm going to be like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that.
What if?
But if a man hates me for being a woman,
somebody does it to somebody else because they get good grades and they're in band, and they don't like nerds.
that'd be bullying. I mean, or it's still aggression. It's still like destruction of property. All these things would still apply.
Right.
But I bet that person didn't already feel a sense of unsafety for being in band.
You bet.
In general. I would, and if it was,
I was in band. I know the band nerds know they're band nerds, and they know they're band nerds.
If we had this epidemic of people targeting band students, I would want a policy about it.
And has there been an epidemic?
No, there's been no social media.
Like black kids getting targeted.
Yes,
by there's an
I just
epidemic?
told you.
No, I know about the Arbor View.
Every week, it's nonstop. It's
really
school people hanging nooses in schools with yes. So I'm telling you, it is not okay. It's not just because it's one thing. It should have happened a long time ago. It should. I mean, teachers saying things. There's like stuff in homework, like questions that are just super racially, like almost like you read it, and if you're like African American reading it, it's like, so I'm a bad person. Like I can't think of exactly what the questions are.
Well, because
I see it every
we're gonna
week.
get into CRT later, and I don't want people telling white people that white people are bad people. I don't want people telling black kids they're bad people either.
Absolutely not. Oh, and so if a black kid, so there's prejudice. Prejudice is different than racism.
Of course, everybody has. I don't believe everybody's a racist. I do believe that everybody's prejudiced. I mean, just
their own personal, like, whatever. Like, maybe I'm like a little biased.
I know I do something
whatever.
offensive that drives my wife crazy. If I see somebody that looks Hispanic, I tend to speak Spanish to them. And I know my wife doesn't like when people do that to her.
Oh, that's interesting. I guess if you don't know, like, that they speak that language, it's different. It's like, because
she feels like, hey, I'm in America, I speak English, you can talk English to me.
So if I knew that, and I was always speaking Spanish to people, I would now change what I do based on that information.
And that's prejudiced of me, but I don't think that's racist of me.
No, that's just like...
No, I'm prejudging that they speak Spanish and not English, or Spanish better than English.
You're just assuming.
Right,
Prejudice
that's what
has
prejudice is.
Prejudice has a negative annotation with it. Like if somebody just, or like, okay.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Racism.
Black people can be prejudiced. You're wrong. You're wrong. Listen, black people can be hella prejudiced against white people. That's prejudice. Racism, the ism in racism means it's systemic, and it means that something was built around it.
Really?
And
definitions
when I say I'm racist, when I say I'm racist, it means that I'm part of a racist system and without my consent. Like, I might have benefited from getting a job at some point over a black woman or...
I swear to you people, it's probably been 20 years. When I grew up, they're changing the language on us right in front of our eyes.
There's...
You guys shrug me off.
I have some old-ass Webster's dictionaries.
Yeah.
We will do this. We will do this.
Huh? No.
She says
you leave it in the comments what you learned prejudice meant. Prejudice meant when I was growing up to prejudge someone, to assume something based on whatever characteristic, whether it was, like I don't think assuming a black kid likes to play basketball. I don't think that's racist. I think that's prejudiced. I'm prejudging that.
No, that's assuming, and that's implicit. So that's actually an implicit bias. And not a bias. A bias is like more towards good or negative. A bias can be like, I think that she's super smart because all the ladies I've ever seen look just like her and she must be the smartest. That's a bias.
Right.
I don't know if she's smart or not.
Right. It's not racist.
So I'll tell you that I checked my implicit bias like a couple weeks ago. I'll tell you this is what when I say I have racism. Here, I'm ADHD. My brain works like this. Oh, there's 4 squares. There's 2 squares. 2 squares. Oh, 2 flags. Oh, what's that? What's that? What's that? Like I'm always looking at stuff and processing it. Okay. So I'm outside at a parking lot. I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, what logo is that? Oh, it must be an insurance company because it's blue. It can't be fast food. Fast food always uses red and yellow. It's obviously not fast food. You're a freak. Okay, there's 2 guys standing there. Oh, it's a cop. Oh, he's arresting someone. What's over there? What kind of bird is that? And then I was like, wait a second. Okay, why do I think this person's being arrested? He's a black dude, and he's standing with his hands behind his back. But he's like facing the cop, and I don't have really any reason to think he's being arrested, And then I look and they just talk and walk away. Well, I'm not going to say that I'm wrong for that because the media has shown me through movies and through the internet and whatever, cops arrest black people. And
really?
This is what that is what implicit means. It was not a conscious decision to be like that guy. It's not like he was standing there and I'm like, that guy looks like a criminal. I didn't choose that. I'm not racist. But I am part of a racist system. And so when we talk about representation, why do you got to put the black guy as the president? And why in the movie, and why do you got to always show now gay couples or whatever? It's about representation and knowing that the mind and the brain is soft and malleable.
100%. And that's part of the, Hollywood has been brainwashing us since Hollywood ever existed.
Yeah. So I know that and I'm okay with it. And so I'm okay with going, oh shit, Danielle, that dude is not getting arrested. And those are the little subtleties in why people want people to understand implicit bias, because maybe the cop didn't do it on purpose, but if there was that one little thing that maybe that guy is bad because I've seen pictures of this looking like this and that's why I pulled the trigger 1 second earlier, that's a big deal. But if that person knows and understands his mind and understands that he may be preconditioned based on his childhood, it takes there's no guilt. I don't feel guilty for thinking that. I just know.
No,
how to
you
do
sound
better.
like you feel guilty for thinking
No,
that.
I just know what things are.
But
Like,
if it was a white dude and the same thing happened, and you probably thought maybe he was getting
I
arrested.
bet I would not have thought that. I think there's two guys having a conversation.
Wait a minute. There's two cops next to a cop car and a dude with his hands behind his
just
back.
kind of swaying, talking, hanging out.
Right. And you think because he was black, not the fact that he was talking to cops with his hands behind his back. You think the thing that set you off to think arrest was the color of his skin, not the fact that it's a civilian with his hands behind his back
Because this is
talking to the cops.
implicit. Implicit means I'm not consciously thinking it.
So if it was me, you would have just thought, oh, that's some dude talking to the cops.
Maybe, maybe not. But I got all the way down to like,
Because
what
my
bird is
problem
this?
is I think you would have thought that.
Maybe.
But then after you realized he wasn't getting arrested, you wouldn't have this big guilt trip about it.
I don't know. I do think
Or would
things
you
like
be like,
that all
oh
the
my
time.
God, I feel so bad. I thought that white dude was getting arrested.
I never felt bad. I think it's fascinating. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And then I wonder, what are my biases around what a teacher should look like? What are my biases around what a politician looks like? How come you want to tell me there's no biases? How come all these people are like, she's too sexy for the school board? Because you have seen old, white, wrinkly dudes. All of them look like leaders. And when you see me, too sexy, too whatever, you can't compute in your mind that I might be a politician or even political material.
Yeah, but don't
I don't feel
compare it
bad.
to something I
It
agree
is
with.
what it
because
is.
then I feel like I'm losing
But
my
it is what it
argument.
is.
Just so you guys know, prejudice now means having a showing a dislike or distrust that is derived from prejudice, bigoted.
Like I said,
And I thought this is the definition of racism.
right, and a lot of people think that. So racism is not even bad. It just is a thing that exists.
So what do you guys think the definition of racism is? I
mean, it
think
is bad.
racism means what I just said, having a negative connotation with a specific race, creed, or religion. That's what I think racism is.
I'll tell you, like, there's arguments that the SAT and even IQ tests are racist. Do you think it doesn't mean that the person that wrote it or distributing it is racist? There's questions like, which of these 4 words is different than the other? Squirrel, boat, regatta. And then it insinuates that, like, you would know what a regatta is when it's a European type of, like, classist thing that somebody else would be like, I don't know, and they get the answer wrong. So that's racist because not every single culture and class would know what that even is.
They changed racism. I mean, they changed prejudice. Because prejudice now means racism. And they used to be 2 different things. Please comment and let me know what you think. What does it say for prejudice, racism?
Well, there's a couple. The noun.
What's the first word?
Well, directed against a person or. It says
What?
prejudice.
Prejudice. Thank you.
But
It says what?
on the basis of their
What's the first word?
membership in a particular racial or ethnic group,
Like I said.
typically one that is minority or marginalized. That's why there's no racism against white people. They're not minority or marginalized.
Oh, they threw that in.
There's prejudice.
I've never
There's
seen the
prejudice
word marginalized.
against white people.
Guys, they're changing the language. Right as we speak, they're changing the language.
That's called progressing with the times. It's okay.
All right.
You know
All
better,
and
you do
then
better.
We have, all right, so after that, my last question about anti-racism. So now you're changing it because I was going to say, I taught for CCSD, I coach for CCSD. And in my personal observations, and I am not oversensitive, I mean, at all. And I'm very self-deprecating, so maybe I'm offensive to other people, but I hope I'm not offending you in any way.
No, I'm good.
When I was working for CCSD, I saw a lot more racism from mostly black kids. Calling a white kid a cracker or a Casper or white boy. I was a coach.
I think you saw prejudice.
What?
I think that you saw prejudice.
The definition for racism is prejudice.
Then it attaches to the rest of the definition, and it
No,
means against a marginalized group.
But that, so
And it's
wait a minute.
It's a whole thing. It's not a one
my
person's.
point is, again, I'm not offended. Like when the black kids were saying that to white, I don't think they had a lot of malice in them and stuff like that. I'm not trying to get them in trouble. I'm trying to say is that I've seen, now if 2 kids are playing basketball and the black kid says, oh, I just broke your ankles, Casper, you dumb white boy. And then the other kid goes past the other kid and says, "Oh, I just whooped your butt, N-word."
Okay, but what if he said
No,
darky,
exactly what I just
darky,
said.
but one is like a bad word.
Oh, okay, fine, darky. So he said white boy and he said darky.
Both of those should not happen.
Okay, but does one fall under anti-racism and one doesn't?
No. Not to my, it wouldn't be like on the level of it, but it's not, they're just being kids and they're jerks and they're using your shirt or their skin color. He doesn't hate that kid and he's not targeting him because
they're playing
of it.
basketball. Again, you know,
He said that because the guy tripped him or won or whatever. It wasn't, so the whole policy is around like, I'm not doing it because you stole my lunch money. I'm doing it because you exist.
All right, so then we're walking down in the hallway. These two kids happen to see each other in the hallway. Right?
And one pushes one into the locker.
And the black dude smashes the guy's books and doesn't even touch the kid, but smashes his book. You know, we used to call it spiking your books, right? The kid's walking with his book,
Okay.
and you dump his books on the ground, so he has to go pick them
and he
up.
says something and calls them a cracker. That is
No. He calls him a
anti-racism.
KKK Nazi MFer.
Absolutely. That would count.
Oh, okay.
If they don't know each other. Again, if it's like because they're stole the lunch money, it's different.
And my only problem is,
yes, kids cannot be targeted for being white either.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, for example, when they were talking about, doing some sort of surveillance because of January 6th. So we should have more rules to like go into people's cell phones and stuff like that to make sure this insurrection doesn't happen.
Like people
again.
want to do in classrooms to watch what teachers are teaching.
Well, we'll get to
Same
that
thing.
in a second. We'll get to that.
It's
in a
okay
second.
when it's one thing but not the other.
No, a federal employee and a person visiting the Capitol are two different things.
I
But
concur,
anyway,
yeah.
we'll get back to that. Thanks for reminding me.
That's not my expertise.
But-
okay, but
But
we
what
only have so
happened
much
is they
time.
wanted more surveillance powers, and they were saying because of January 6th, we want to find out who was talking, who planned this, who had weapons, yada, yada, yada. And Black Lives Matter came out and said, guys, no, as Democrats, don't support this. Call your Democrat representative. Don't support, because they're going to put it in place because of January 6th. But then when we want to, protest a racial thing, they're going to use the same law against us.
I could see it, yeah.
And that's why they were saying, that they didn't agree with it, even though the conservatives were the ones who didn't agree with it also.
Okay.
And then I'm worried about this too with this anti-racist policy. Like I said, white people are a lot more astute to not being racist because everybody's yelling at them not to be racist.
I think that's your opinion.
Well, no, this is my experience
yes.
from a CCSD
Your
school. I'm not going to say what
experience.
school I taught at, but it was like 75% Hispanic, 12% African American, and like 5% white. And and like I said, from my experience, again, something that I'm not super offended by, but I tell the kids, hey, watch your mouth.
But that's only your experience. It's not enough
Right.
data.
It-
It's
100%.
not enough sample size.
Well, I've also coached at other schools. I mean, and when I'm coach, I was a basketball coach. And a majority, I would say when I was coaching basketball, probably 75% of my kids were black, 10% Hispanic, and 15% white. So, but I've always had a diverse group, whether it's Hispanic, black, white, they've always been all mixed in. And I'm just saying, just in that competitive context, kids are always talking smack, but racially utilized words were more so used from black kids to other kids than vice versa.
I'd say that's human behavior, and any group in that kind of setting where they probably don't hate each other either.
No,
and
and
they're
I agree.
probably
I'm not offended by it. I'm
messing
saying
with
I would
them.
tell the kids, watch your mouth.
I would say that's not either bullying or racism, but that would fall under like cultural sensitivity. Like that's a whole other thing. And I wouldn't punish them unless it really hurt one of the
So
kids or
in
something.
these situations, people aren't going to be affected by this anti-racist policy.
They really shouldn't unless they
paint a SWAT sticker on a locker or punch a kid because of their race.
of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But kids being kids, we're still not going to be,
Right.
Okay.
It's just to protect the ones who are marginalized and are scared and are getting harmed for literally existing and don't want to. You can take off your Jewish cap. I can't think what that's called right now. You can't take off your skin. Yarmulke. Yeah. You can take off. I support police. At the same time, they can change their clothes. It's
Right.
like you're black, you're Mexican, you speak another language, whatever. You're a target all the time, and you want to feel safe at school.
Well, then what about like AB 168, which was passed in 2019, where basically that was basically the end of behavior schools. That was, it basically says you can't expel a student or you can't get rid of a student unless they literally like bring a gun to school or something like that. So what's going on? Like I said, if one of these kids gets into a racist confrontation, they get into a fight, or they call a teacher a Nazi, or a KKK person, or a N-word or something like that. Teachers can't get students out of their class anymore. It's all restorative.
Yeah, it's really like, I have a lot. First of all, I was new when that passed, and so it was like a lot of learning. But I know why that existed, but we haven't like fixed the problem in the first place. So even if you had to do that like for a minute, they're definitely okay. I know 2 kids. This happened like within 2 weeks of each other. Okay, both 5th graders, different sides of town. One, a little black boy, was being all crazy, doing all this stuff with pencils, drumming, and he hit a girl in her face. And it caused like a scratch or a scar. Not like horrible. But it scratched her.
I'm sure blood though in the parents.
Yes. Wasn't intentional.
Right.
Another 5th grader literally grabbed a knife from the backpack he brought and opened it and put it up to another girl's throat and said, "I'm going to effing kill you." Only one of those kids got expelled. They were different races. It was a white kid with a knife, and it was a black kid with a pencil, and which one do you think got expelled?
Well, I'm guessing from your story that this is some sort of horrible...
So the black kid did.
Right.
Okay, and so then I've even heard, just talking to like other trustees and other things, like this is a thing. It's like even around my ADHD research. Like a middle school black kid is like forgetting everything, forgetting homework, won't come, getting lost in the hallway, running around the classroom. Same thing with a white boy over here, and it's like, oh well, that kid has bad parenting, and this kid, what are we going to do, and how is he going to be a CEO?
Well, no, I mean, I'm not saying that these things haven't happened in the past. I mean, we even have like Joe Biden when he passed the crime bill. He talked about certain things like 3 strikes you're out in the inner city, but at the same time, because they weren't not reconcilable, rehabilitable or something like that. And he had these races, and we played the clips a couple of times where he didn't think certain kids were rehabilitable while other kids were, so they got different. But this was a long time ago.
I think we need different approaches. In New York, for instance, what they did with families is if one kid, let's say that it was a senior, and he did something bad, or he outside of school he joined a gang and hurt someone, that kid's expelled, he's done, he's whatever, he's in jail. Well, now they put in a program where they would go find all the siblings, and they would give all the siblings like whatever wraparound service is better, and try to stop that progression, because they're gonna probably follow in their footsteps.
Right.
Why aren't we doing that? So we did jump to just not expelling anybody, but at the same time, there was no, so actually the anti-racism policy and all this is for that reason, because we didn't really have rules around it. Hey, it was this. Right. You can't just expel them. It was, they did this. So anybody who doesn't like that should support the anti-racism policy so that there's better metrics. And
you get what you did something wrong, you get in trouble.
Absolutely.
But my whole point was, I used to say, because I used to teach at CCSD, and I had classes with over 40, 42, 44 a couple of times, and I always said that I didn't care if you gave me 80 kids. As long as I could take 10% of the kids and take them out, I could teach any number of kids. But every time I taught, there was always just 1 or 2 or 3 kids that really took up 50% of my attention, and not construct. It's not like they needed more help and I helped them more, and just distracting. And not only are they hurting themselves, but that whole side of the classroom is bad. Now, way before you became a trustee, we got rid of tracking. You weren't allowed to put the good kids with the good kids and the bad kids with the bad kids. We needed, and while I agree with that, for disabilities, we need immersion. I forget the word for it. When you
English language learners. Emerging bilinguals?
No. When a child with disabilities is with the normal population.
Oh, general...
There's a word for it. It's not immersion,
I know what you're saying, immersion, schooling.
We're both having a brain fart. But nonetheless, so we got rid of tracking, so we couldn't, because if you get good kids with good kids,
that's also super inequitable. What if we just said every teacher gets an aide in every classroom? How would that help?
Yeah.
So let's start there. You know what I mean? But like, why aren't we starting there? Why are we just starting with like no expelling? I know teachers who tell me like that even if a kid's being really disruptive and they want to expel him or whatever, or they don't even want to send him to the principal because they know the principal might do something like too rash.
Right.
And then you've got some that are like, I don't want to like be the one to walk this kid out because now I'm like not taking care of my class. So
the
there's all these
behavior
like
at school was perfect. I mean, the kids get in trouble, 3 strikes, you're out, or
there's
something
a lot
like
of psychological stuff around that though, because then you become like a behavior school kid, like kind of like a teen mom. You know, like, oh, I'm a teen mom.
Right,
I'm a
but
behavior
if you
school
want,
kid. Like,
you just don't get in trouble for a month and you get to go back.
but or what about starting with a teacher's aide? In every
And then
class?
also now you're surrounded by bad kids, so you're more prone to
there's
get
your
worse.
friends. There's your new
But what do? I mean,
Well,
we're
start with a teacher's
watering
aide.
down our education so bad. I mean, it's disgusting.
I agree. That we're on the same page with that.
The new grading system.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, minimum Fs in general are not the worst thing in the world.
In concept, yeah.
You know, I have no problem with giving a kid a 40% for missing work and 50% for some effort put in.
But they came to class.
Right, and they tried, and they got like a 20%. But these are kids that are trying. All right, you got a 50%. It doesn't ruin your whole semester. No problem.
You can come back from that with a couple of
Right,
reports.
and you could always retake it,
Mm-hmm.
in some sort of reasonable fashion. But the system that's in place, I haven't studied it. I've been
Well, we
busy.
just approved a new grading policy,
right. So, and I know that the minimum.
and I
then,
voted against it twice.
I read that you tried to take it off the agenda. You got shut down. So please give us all some details on exactly what the new grading policy is, why you opposed it, what happened there, and what that means to teachers and students overall.
A lot of those questions I don't even have the answer to because they don't have the answer to it. And when we ask them at a meeting, like the superintendent and staff, it's like we'll figure it out. So a lot of those I don't even have the answers to. But what happened is they rolled several changes into one, whereas a lot of people support the getting rid of or the minimum F. Okay, we can roll with that. A lot of people were like, thank you. We were already doing that.
Right.
But at the same time, they took away any types of punishment or grading based on behavior or even attendance or even paying attention or even doing any work. So teachers aren't allowed to even put limits on when stuff has to be turned in. You only get graded on what you turn in, and you can turn it all in at the end of the year if you want to, and make the teachers spend their last week of summer doing everything.
And that doesn't prepare you for life. I mean,
it does not. So it really makes no sense logically. We were not getting any answers as to why, but I'm like, me. So I study this stuff. I study what other districts are doing. I look into the stuff that we buy. I go, what other districts bought this? And I've learned that there are like national networks who pay for like superintendent search firms to place superintendents that went through their grooming program into
like
large urban districts.
Politics.
Then they come up with some sort of software or curriculum or PD or plan or product or contract to copy but sell, policies to copy, and that superintendent, all their superintendents will bring it in so that they all start doing
kind of
the
like
same
Soros
thing.
is doing with DAs. He's got all his DAs all over the country that are not prosecuting prostitution anymore.
So yes. So at the same time that this grading policy is happening, which doesn't make any sense, I'm looking at what we're buying. And what we have been buying is a lot of computers, Chromebooks, even though we already had a bunch.
And that's one of the questions from our callers.
And, Chromebooks, and going into next year, all kids will be given, no matter if they want it or not, a Chromebook. Sounds good in theory, but they need students to have the software and the testing software and the tracking software, and they need everybody to have it, so my kid can't just go use my computer.
Right, so now somebody's selling 330,000 softwares.
They're saying that they're being equitable, so that all of this is done in the guise of equity, and all these kids that need stuff.
So if you're against it, then you're racist.
Then you're racist.
Okay.
And you hate poor kids.
Right. PAA podcast could do what Danielle Ford is racist again.
Okay, there you go. I actually want to see it because that's kind of funny editing. Maybe I'll hire him to do my editing from now on because it was actually pretty good. Give him credit. No, and so then specifically what I'm concerned about is this agenda that was already set in place before COVID. I believe, this is my personal opinion, speaking as myself, I believe that COVID gave these people, these national groups, all the same people profiting off of it, a reason to execute it quicker. And what that is basically what kids do in distance learning, or we're doing, they'll just be doing it but in their classroom. So we don't need teachers. We don't have to pay teachers.
Right.
They have their computer. They have their curriculum. They have the testing software. They actually have software that makes sure that kids are looking at the screen.
Wow. And
And
they have
it
that
dings
class.
them.
What is that class that where kids are, if they fail like algebra, the first semester of algebra while they're taking the second semester
like
of
it's
they
like
go to
inner-
the computer and they do the computer.
Yeah, I know. I can't. It's like inner or something, right?
Yeah, it's some sort of, in every CCSD school they have the little thing where the kids can
Which
go
is
to the computer.
fine.
Right, but you're saying they're like
They're turning into
growing
robots.
AI.
That's exactly what it is. And so this new software, kids can
Dings
type
you
in,
if you're not looking
type
at the
in your
screen.
entire essay, and we'll grade it. So it's actually I posted a video today actually about it, but the app called Grammarly, like the Chrome
Yeah,
extension.
right, I know it.
So
Oh,
it's
it-
basically that. So it's telling the kids, oh, you should have a comma, and why you don't need a teacher. So I don't think that parents know that's coming. And the whole reason for the grading policy, in my opinion, I don't know this to be fact, but it's what I kind of have put together, is because this robots, the AI cannot determine behavior and attendance and
Right.
take into account if that kid is not looking away or is helping another student or is there an alternative method like a teacher can, like a
Right,
human
right,
teacher.
right.
And so the same people who are behind this software and the testing software and all of that are the same people who try to get teachers through quick programs that don't need even a degree.
Right.
And then we pay them even less.
Right. And you're still going to have your $5.2 billion spending budget.
Oh, and the software is not like Google Drive that's super free and accessible.
And I'm
with
sure
the same
every year
infrastructure.
they won't sell you the software. You got to update
And there's
it.
the and you got to buy it again. You got to license it again. And you got to get the credits. And the teachers have to go through the training. And we got to do all the things. And
It's so
Yep.
$5 billion every year you guys spend.
I know.
And this year it's going to be like $7 billion or $8 billion?
Over the next couple of years, yeah. It's out of control.
Or
and
it'll be like 6 or 7 billion for the next 2 or 3 years?
So here's the thing,
least.
I believe in tutoring for kids who need tutoring, and I believe in equity. Equity is, my kid does not need a computer. Don't send your crappy ass computers home with me. I don't need more clutter in my house. We have computers, but they're going to force me. Equity is, I don't need a computer. Give that family 4 computers. Equality is you all get to go to school, you all get a teacher, you all get materials,
Yeah.
you all have a safe experience, you get lunch. That's equality. We're doing equality. But now, under the guise of equity, every kid must take a computer. No, that's not equity. That's equality done wrong.
Right. Plus, some parents don't want it. And with the tracking and the camera and everything else, some parents are really tripping out. They don't want it in the house.
I put it on the record. And they were mad. They try to pass these things, and the trustees are expected to be quiet and nod. And the second we put something on the record, it's like we're the enemy. I put it on the record during COVID. It's like, yeah, you give us a good thing. Here's computers. Here's free whatever. But also, let's talk about this, and I want parents to
And
know
isn't there
this is a thing.
I mean, for example, I am so against, we're not a socialist nation. I'm against free breakfast, free lunch, free this, free that.
I would agree with that, yeah.
I'm not against helping out a family who
That
needs
needs
some
it.
help. You know what I
Yes.
mean? But it's not, why are we feeding all the kids? Why are, everything is free, which again is not free. Somebody's paying for it. We're going to school. Pay the teachers a little bit more. Let's get better teachers in there. Let's make sure we have football pads and football fields and band instruments and theaters and equipment so you could build a set and arts and athletics and academics. That's what it should be about.
I'm going to just disagree with you there with food in school. I believe that food, if you look at the hierarchy of needs, like food and shelter and shoes, even I think we should be giving kids shoes who don't have shoes and food who don't have food.
Yeah, but I don't want to give every kid a pair of shoes.
That's true.
If there's 10%
agree.
of the kids need some help, or the mom calls up and says, hey,
Or 80% or whatever it is, because some schools
80%.
are 70% free and reduced lunch. We have 15,000 homeless kids in the school district.
I used to teach.
There's a school near Shade Tree and stuff that has almost 100% transient kids, like homeless kids, or in the foster care system.
But that's my point, is they should be getting free
So-
breakfast, free lunch.
That's what I'm
shoes,
saying. 80% of those
notebooks,
kids,
everything.
20% of the kids over here, whatever.
Right.
That's equity. It's not the same everywhere.
Right, but I'm saying we should help the kids who need it most. If one school it's 80%, fine. If it's another school it's 10%, fine.
Right.
But what we're doing is, it was 90%, 90%, 90%, 90%, and now it's 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%.
Well, another reason why is because we only base that off of people who fill out the free and reduced lunch application, and many people are afraid to fill it out because of ICE. Because whether it's true or not, whether it's true or not that someone will show up on their door and send them back to wherever they're from, many people will not fill out that form at all, and those kids need to eat. So that's one reason. Also, I'll tell you that my kids often did not get lunch, and this is kind of very embarrassing to say because this is like back to my like ADHD and like whatever. But on days where like I was never free and reduced lunch, I should have been at one point, didn't know it until like later. But you know, on days where like I forgot to send them with money, they would be like, "Nope," and then my kids would be like, "I didn't eat," and I'm like, "Sorry." So just give the kids food, like like they're little kids.
And you're and you know you're gonna throw out 80 lunches at the end of the day because you have a couple too many.
And they won't. And they won't even like let people do a share table. Like that's the thing. Again, back to the snack shack, they wouldn't let me do that. It's all these contracts. It's the people who want to buy more food. So take all this away, and we'll have enough food to feed everybody who wants food.
I'm getting in trouble, and we still have a lot to get to. So we're gonna skip the dick measuring. Let's talk a little bit about the factions. All right. First of all, how many trustees are there?
7.
All right. So first we have Jesus Chara.
We have the trustees and then Jesus Jara, but he thinks it's Jesus Jara and the trustees.
Gotcha. I was gonna put him like this.
Nope. We go up here and he goes down here.
Okay. Very good. So what do we got? We have
7.
The president is
Board President Linda Cavazos.
Linda Cavazos, and is she team A or B? A. She's team A. All right. Cavazos is team A, and what's their number one motivation?
She's on my team.
She's on your team.
We care about teachers.
All right.
We care about mental health.
Teachers and mental health.
We want to save money. We want the community involved. We want people to feel safe.
That's not a good name of a team. We're going to get to your platform in a second. All right. Team teachers is over here. Linda Cavazos.
Team whole child.
Whole child.
Yeah.
All right. Linda Cavazos, president, team whole child. Then we have vice president.
She's a swing vote, usually.
And that's her. What's her name?
Irene Cepeda.
Irene Cepeda is the middle.
She's kind of like I like her, actually, even though she's been whatever to me. Okay. I like her.
I don't know her, but I've seen her at some meetings.
Sometimes what she says and what she votes on don't match up, but I feel like it's because...
She seems to contradict herself sometimes in the middle of a sentence.
And I think that she gets, like, brought in from the other team and, like, told the wrong things or something. I don't know. I haven't figured it out.
She
not my job, not my circus, not my monkeys.
Right. All right, but I've seen her speak not the most eloquent speaker.
I would agree with that.
Okay,
but I'm the one who gets bashed for that.
All right, so then we have 5 more trustees. Danielle Ford is team whole student.
Yes.
Okay, then Katie Williams.
The other team.
All right, team B. What's the main focus of team B?
Pass off power, be quiet,
and so we have whole student,
give away the power,
and power team.
Or sit there and look pretty. This is not your place. Don't question the superintendent.
Team Jara.
That's exactly what it is.
Oh, okay, good. So we got team teacher, student, whole student,
team heart,
Jara.
Team community.
You can't keep changing the name. People aren't going to be able to follow along.
It's going to be like a Harry Potter novel.
All right, so we got Cavazos and Danielle Ford. Cepeda's in the middle. We got Katie Williams on Team Jara. Who's next?
I would say, based on votes and how things have gone in the past, on our team good
whole student.
Team
that's
good
it.
team good team.
All right, the good guys.
Okay, is Lisa Guzman, who's new to the board. Yeah, she's new, just like with Katie. They all got elected.
All right, Guzman, Cavazos,
and so she's
Ford.
Previously the support staff executive director.
Okay.
So she's very pro teachers, pro community.
Right. Guzman.
Yeah.
That's 3. Is that it for your team?
Sometimes Guzman has been on the other team, but that's more of like, I think her decision. I feel like I would put my faith in her to vote the right way on certain things.
Oh, okay, so Cavazos, the president, which is good. The president's, in charge.
Well, we vote in a new president every January.
Oh, every year?
Every year.
Oh, wow.
So she could very well be outvoted in January, and I'm pretty sure she will be.
It's going to be up to Cepeda.
Yes.
So we got Cavazos, Guzman, Ford, Cepeda in the middle, and then Katie Williams.
I would agree with that.
And who else?
Lola Brooks, who's
Lola
a previous
Brooks.
board president, who I think you're going to probably ask me about the ethics complaint I recently filed. It was against her. I don't know what it is, but she is like, in her mind, give the power to Jara. She tried to get us to give full authority to Jara to vote on it during COVID in case, and they said this. I was like, no, at a board meeting. They go, how about we change it to, if 4 of the 7 trustees are incapacitated at any point in time during COVID and struggling to connect to the internet, then Jara gets full permission, full authority. I was like, if we pass that, I am sleeping with one eye open.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
No, like she's always like,
And why would you even they're just trying to make some scenario.
just give it to Jara, because I know for sure that Lola Brooks got campaign donations from the same people that brought Jara here. And she got hired by a charter school. I'm not anti-charter, but let's just be...
How do you feel about school choice?
Hold on. I'm not anti-charter, but it's very strange that after she won the primary, then she got a cushy job at a charter school that is the same people with all the things.
Oh, really?
So someone has her ear.
Firm,
someone has her ear.
Do you know what it is, the entity?
I know all the people connected.
All right, so there's some entity who brought Jara here from Florida, was it?
Mm-hmm.
And then now Lola Brooks got campaign
You can
donations
trace
from them.
the
And then they
donations.
also have a charter school or a private school. Which one?
Charter school.
And Lola Brooks is on the board.
She got handed a job, like a data analyst for good pay. Very weird timing.
Right. Things are just going her way.
Yeah.
She's lucky. Me and my other friend, we were talking earlier about when Pelosi is 100 for 100 on stock trades. She gets everyone right.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of Lola Brooks is living that life.
That's what I'm seeing it. And I'm
then
not
who's the
anti-charter, but we're supposed to protect public money and not be handing money off to charters if we can stop it. And
if I was a school board member, I'm school choice 100%. But I would try to make CCSD
we can talk
the
about
best
that.
choice about it.
Yes.
That's what I would want. I would say, yeah, you could do whatever you want, but
Or
let me tell you, I'm going to have the best
do
product.
the same choices.
Right.
Yeah.
And then who's the third?
Well, then there's also
Brooks, Williams,
Evelyn Garcia Morales,
Evelyn Garcia Morales. That's a long name.
whose boss is connected to the same people connected to Lola's charter school. And I'm going to say this right now, even though because I don't care.
We're 2 hours into
There's
nobody's watching anymore, so you can say
okay,
whatever
stop
you
trying
want.
to make me feel comfy.
You want a beer?
No, this is not news. It's just I've never had a chance to say it, but in our briefings, we get a chance to question on the contracts that come through. There's been things that the superintendent has wanted to do that's directly tied to Garcia Morales' boss, including giving our land away for free for schools, including hiring people who work with them, including letting them be the arm of certain stuff, and paying for, and I'm pretty sure, okay, so I say in our briefings, I will vote for this, but I'm going to be asking, is this a conflict of interest? Is this going to remain public school money? Is there any reason that this could be a perceived conflict of interest? And if you guys can answer those questions and I will vote for it.
Right.
They keep on pulling it, and she keeps on pulling it because
they're waiting for 4 trustees to be incapacitated, the
Maybe.
other 3 not to have internet
Maybe.
connection, and then Jared could be like, oh no, where is it? Okay.
or if we could pass a policy that doesn't allow me to even ask that question.
Oh, they got tricks?
Yeah. So there's that, and those are the 3. Those 3 are always together. Whatever. I don't know why. I'm not going to try to understand it, but I'll say that Katie Williams, even though we have different views, we had similar views about our role as a trustee.
Right.
And I even told her, I'm like, hey, this is before she was sworn in. I'm like, we need a better lawyer. We need better
I talked to
this
Katie
and that.
Williams. I told her that I liked you, and all along, like I said, we've agreed and disagreed on stuff, and I got so much respect for the fact that you are independent. There's nobody agrees with everything you said, and I found that once they find something they disagree with you, everybody hates you. So, that's
everybody
another
hates
reason why
me for some
nobody's
reason.
watching. Yeah, but don't worry, nobody's. It's just me and you.
Perfect.
So I respect you a lot for that. And I used to talk to Katie Williams, so I met you first. I met Katie Williams about a year ago as she was starting to run and stuff like that. And she started, before she was controversial, but after she had proclaimed to be a staunch conservative.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so I was, along with other down ballot Republicans, we were promoting Katie Williams and stuff like that. And ever since she won and got sworn in, I haven't talked to her. I've reached out to her. I thought she would be one of my first interviews. And she doesn't talk to me at all anymore. And, you and I, like I said, I've done this, that, the other thing. You've had a whole bunch of stuff going on. We haven't talked for a while. But I feel like we're still friends. And I finally said, listen, you got to come on. School's coming. And you came on, and it wasn't that big a deal. I don't know what's up with her.
If I had to bet,
she stood me up. She
I believe
canceled
you.
the day of.
I would be surprised. I don't know that this is true, but I would be surprised if the superintendent hasn't promised her a million things and has already delivered a million things, because he needs her to be that vote. We just approved his contract,
Right.
or an extension that was super debatable. I actually have a complaint in with the Attorney General. I'm waiting on to
About
ask.
the way that went down?
I requested that he nullify that vote, and I produced a lot of evidence as to why he should, about conversations and the ways that we came to the decision to even bring that contract up. And then the fact that Katie even said on the record, we already decided this in a closed meeting. And I'm like, either we violated open meeting law
Just now, right.
by coming up with a decision in closed meeting,
right.
or we didn't make a decision in closed meeting and you still won't let us talk about it right now and give our opinions and talk about his performance. So which one is it?
This was a big thing. This was in the news. People were talking about it. People were mad at Katie because Katie ran on an anti-Jara campaign.
I know. And I'm like...
And it's not like she's explaining at all. Like saying, oh, well, listen, this is what happened. Or I talked to Jara and he's, something concerned. He wants kids to be able to bring guns to school. So,
right, and they're they don't align all the time. And he takes his orders from what I call the corporate Democrats. Because I see it there's you're socialist Democrats, you're corporate Democrats that might as well be Republicans.
Well, obviously Clark County is the 5th biggest school district in the nation. So
if
they know who Jara is,
Then there's your fiscally conservative Republicans, which I kind of agree with, and then there's your Westboro Baptist crazy Republicans, and it's So with Jara and what I see Katie, they're not the same. He's pissed her off a few times as far as policy and stuff, like the let her home to talk about weapons. She was against that.
I remember that.
I can't get it in my brain.
She's talking about when kids were talking about any weapons they might have at home and stuff like that.
Linda Cavazos, who's a big gun advocate, common sense laws and stuff, got us, and I supported it, just to include in the plethora of things we send home about media, to say hey, we want to let you know to remember if you have a weapon at home, please store it safely. That's it.
I am so against anything infringing on the Second Amendment.
I agree too,
and
but it's not.
What you just said does not offend me whatsoever.
Okay.
You want to send home a reminder? Hey guys, just a friendly reminder.
You don't have to disclose if you got anything.
No,
nothing.
right. But if you have a weapon at home, just make sure prescription pills.
Sometimes people leave it out.
Weapons. Right.
Forgetful. Mm-hmm.
Let's not forget that it's not only your kids, but they might have a friend.
That's
some
what it
sort
is.
of happy PSA.
So she was so against that. She even had people at the meeting fighting it. But I'm just going in my mind of all these things that she doesn't really align with Jara. But she's stuck on him.
You're not lying to me. I mean, that's all it was. It was just a little.
I swear to you.
Then all right, I don't.
I swear to you. Yeah,
but I'm pro 2A. I'm just don't understand what's the problem.
I want someone who's carrying a weapon anywhere I'm at. Right. And they're trained and they're concealed, whatever, Right.
I love when I go to, say, the Wendy's and I see a guy with an open
Thank
carry.
you.
No problem.
I'm going to sit by him.
Right, I feel better, not worse.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. So I don't know. I just feel there's something going on. Maybe he's done her some favors, and because she is will fight me. Anything I say about Jara or the way he's doing something, or hey, can we get reminded of this? She's Trustee Ford, that's the operational under the superintendent. I'm I didn't ask you, biatch. Okay, all the time. She always stops me and tells me what my job is. On the record, off the record, closed meetings. It's her favorite thing in the world to be So I thought that Lola Brooks was the ultimate rule follower. Well, now Katie follows Lola. She's her. They call it themselves. What was it the dynamic duo? Okay,
Shut up!
I swear
Stop!
I'm not making this up. I couldn't. Okay, so that's where I am.
Lola Brooks and Katie Williams are the dynamic duo.
Yes, they call themselves out on
Guys,
briefings.
I hope we have unity in the Clark County Republican Party, and we will start covering the meetings. You know, we have Anna Binder as our educational correspondent. She'll keep us abreast, and the juicier it gets, the more we'll have Anna on explaining what's going on. How would you feel if I sat here and you sat there and Katie sat here?
I'd be
and
fine
we had
with
a
it.
nice little talk.
Yeah, I'd be fine with it. Sure, please.
I mean,
that's great.
I like Katie.
I'm like, let's get to the bottom of things, good or bad or whatever. Let's straighten it out. Like I'm here for it.
100.
No name calling. Let's
No,
be
no,
adults.
no, no,
like,
no,
whatever.
no,
Yeah.
no. Mm-hmm. I mean, we could make it a little comical, you know, but I mean, no ill will, or just a nice little talk, and you know, you're a jerk is allowed.
I'll say I shouldn't have said that word about biatch, but that is what goes in my mind. But I wouldn't
Biatch
say
is
that
worse than bitch.
I wouldn't say it during like a whatever.
If you said biatch, nobody would have a problem with
Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
that. All right, really, we got to keep going. CRT. All right, now here's the deal. CRT is not going to CCSD. I understand. All right. Parents, conservative parents, aren't scared about CRT. We're not thinking that people are going to bring in this theory, this hardcore economic theory that was introduced as an offshoot of critical theory in the 1920s. And then we have critical race theories out of Harvard in 1969.
That's why they named it that.
Right. It went from critical theory to critical race theory.
Because the people just doing that didn't name it critical race theory. Like the people coming up with it was the whole.
No, in 1969, a guy from Harvard came up with critical race theory.
But the Nobel Prize winner, whose like work was based on what we're calling CRT, didn't name it that. Someone else named it that. You know what I mean?
No.
So so I think that they're just like that kind of connects things for me because they're trying to like it was an easy way to get people to associate it with something else.
Right, because it was. It's a Marxist trait where it's supposed to be critical economic theory.
It just means critical thinking.
No,
really.
It doesn't. Not at all. That's
Well,
like saying
no, not the
saying Black Lives
1920s
Matters
one.
is about improving Black lives. It's not about.
Okay, well, I'll stick with you. But from what I understand, like the critical race theory is like, let's think it through and like where.
Well, that's what they want you to think it is.
Okay.
Critical theory is saying that we're all built in a class system.
Okay.
And the people at the top of the class are oppressing the people in the lower class.
Okay.
And most countries,
See, I don't really
whether
know
you're
much about
talking
this.
about China or Africa or Europe, I mean, most countries aren't diverse like the United States. So, you know, they had to divide them by economic class and say, you know, especially capitalism is the problem. All the haves are holding down the have-nots.
I've seen Game of Thrones. I know.
There we go. Okay. So then in America, they thought it would be so much easier because class is not always 100% apparent. While in India and the caste system it is, you've got a lot of gray area from caste to, you know, not caste. So in America, we got all these different colors. It's so easy to pick teams and divide people that way. So that's how critical race theory emerged from critical class theory.
Okay.
It was just called
I'll follow
critical
that.
theory.
Right.
And it was just this theory trying to apply that thing of oppressed and oppressors and have-nots, and you need to step up and let the government control the means of production for an equitable outcome.
Okay, which is completely different from critical race theory.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. And nobody thinks that we're going to be talking about these Marxist ideologies or whether you're talking about rules for radicals or you're talking about implementing the rules for. It's not about that. It's about not classifying people by race. We want to stop, moving forward, no longer about race. I mean, I went to school. I learned about slavery. I learned about the slave triangle. I learned about the American Indians. I learned about Andrew Jackson, him being 8 years old, watching his family get murdered inside his house by Indians.
Did you learn about Black Wall Street?
We learned everything from roots to Black Wall Street to...
In school?
We learned about all the lawsuit that Trump was going through and all the people were going through, because I lived in New York.
I wonder if that's your teacher or the curriculum, because that's
it was
pretty
years and years. We
special.
watched Roots in school.
Okay.
I mean, we spent a week just watching the whole story of Kunta Kinte. We learned the story of Andrew Jackson watching his family get killed by Indians, and they left him because he was only 7 or 8 years old, grew up and killed a bunch of Indians.
I would be
And the
interested to
Trail
see
of
if what
Tears.
you learned is what has been being taught the last 5 years and 10 years in that same school.
Well, like I said, the vocabulary's changing, curriculum's changing. I don't necessarily know, but I know I learned about all of the different Indians. I learned about the Aztecs,
That's awesome.
the Mayans. I learned about the slave trade. I learned about racists. I learned about the KKK. I learned about Martin Luther King. I learned about Malcolm X. We learned about all
Students
these
are not
things.
learning these things right now. I'll just tell you that. It's not being taught. It's been parents have been able to water down the curriculum.
Nobody. I promise you, the Republicans and the conservatives that are demanding there's no CRT in our schools are not saying that we shouldn't be teaching about slavery.
They're saying we shouldn't be teaching oppression or blaming people for being a certain race or whatever.
And we shouldn't be taking out the Civil War to double down.
I
Or
agree.
people
Yeah.
like me think they're learning about slavery now. We don't need to learn double slavery and take out the Civil War, and triple slavery and take out the
It's
Revolutionary
more
War.
just like add in the pockets around it. Like keep
Well,
the
we should
Civil
just-
War, but add in the Jefferson, father,
Yeah,
kid.
I have no problem. First of all, I have no problem with learning the truth about George
And this
Washington,
also has
Thomas Jefferson.
disclaimer. I have opinions about this, but it also has nothing to do with CCSD whatsoever, because the anti-racism policy, the board is sitting there, and people shut up and started going like, "You want to tell our kids that they, are oppressed?" And we're like, "What is CRT?" We
Right.
never heard of it.
Right, and I understand that. But you see on the news, and it's not being hyperbole. Like you talk about the 1619 project, right? They want to replace history textbooks with the 1619 project
Well,
it's
the way
factually
curriculum
inaccurate.
works is it just becomes like sex ed curriculum. Okay, for instance, it becomes.
Well, we could get into that.
I know, but it's the same thing. So there is a pool that you can add curriculum into, and to be able to submit curriculum, it has to go through like a committee. And then a teacher can pull from all that curriculum. So just because something gets added doesn't mean that it's the only thing that's going to get taught or taken out.
I understand that, but you're talking about like the U.S. military inputting how to be an anti-racist, which talks about horrible, horrible things by Ibram X. Kennedy, saying all white people are racist and oppressed, like all this stuff that we're scared
But
of.
what you just said, like the whole back to the thing of even black people are racist. Do you know that there's like these like this? I think it's baffling. There's like tests where you can prime a kid, let's say like a Asian female. You can prime her with a paragraph, and if it talks about being a woman, and then you give her a test, she's going to do worse on it versus she reads a paragraph about Asian culture, she's going to do better on it. So even people of color, even the people that we're talking about, nope, we're not in control of our brains.
But,
okay?
but do you not understand? My point is that we're making it worse.
I get your point.
We
I don't know that that's the end all of it. So I understand your point. I don't
Things were
agree
a
with
lot
your
better.
point.
When I was growing up, I also lived in
You
New
only
York,
have
like you said.
one sample size of you in New York
Right,
at that time.
right. And I grew up, like I said, learning about slavery, the good, the bad, the ugly.
I certainly didn't learn the things that you are mentioning.
Well, there
Some
you
of
go,
them.
CCSD.
So we're trying to fix it. Some people think we should fix it. If it came to us, I would be open to a conversation about it, but it has not. CRT has not come to the table for us.
Right. And if the kids in CCSD are not watching the movie Roots, I
don't
am
believe
against
they are.
that. I think they should. If the kids are not learning about slavery or the Trail of Tears or the good and the bad of the Civil War, of Jim Crow, of the
They're not.
Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, who had very different views about.
I think we're saying the same thing.
And people are scared of white people are oppressors. They are racist. They must be racist. You can't be white and not be a racist.
I would never support that.
But this is the problem.
So the media is scaring people. We're
No,
not.
it's not even the media. I mean, on the Johnny Bruce Show, we show pictures. Look up. We've done a lot of critical race theory episodes of teachers saying, "I don't care. I'm going to teach. White people are oppressors. You're not going to tell me to stop saying that."
But is it like 5 teachers? It's like those. They probably got fired after that, and we don't really know what else happened. Because there's always like the teachers that are going to say the thing. So I'm interested in watching those, but it's still like not enough information to be like, oh, it's good or bad or
Right.
wrong or right or whatever. I don't really know what it
Because
is.
and maybe you're right about the media. The media is telling the Democrats, hey, white people don't even want to learn about slavery anymore, and they don't even want to learn
Right.
about MLK anymore.
I
That's not
completely
true.
agree with that.
That's not true. And then the
Completely.
media is telling the Republicans, oh, they want to teach you that all white people are oppressors. That if you have a white and a black parent, then the white person is racist and the black person is oppressed, and you have no chance, and you need to.
Hey, I have a Young Moms Club video about why media is evil. Okay, and that's what they do. And back to the Wayfair thing, human trafficking has been going on forever, and then all of a sudden it's this whole thing. And this conversation and the need for better curriculum, like fact-based, empathetic curriculum, where you just put yourself in the mind of someone else. That's it.
Right.
What would it be like to be, Native American at that time? What would it be like if I was walking into this classroom right now and I was a black kid or a Mexican or I didn't speak English? What would that be like for me at this moment? Oh, I'm the only one. Or, oh wait, this is quite a diverse classroom. Like, it's just,
That's what people are, and that's why I understand, because
so they benefit because you know what? All the things I'm talking about, the contracts and all this power imbalance, no one's talking about it
because they're talking about
because
CRT.
they want to give you something to talk about at the time.
And it's the same thing going on with our country, which I'm
Different
guessing you're not
scales.
following as much as I am, and you're probably happier for it. But yeah, they're distracting us with all this crap while the border is wide open, while, they're talking about coronavirus masks, when Cuba is trying to become a free state, and you can't you can't find nothing on the internet about Cuba, you can't hear nothing about what's going on in Cuba, but we're going to keep talking about coronavirus and masks when really, nobody's even dying anymore. Speaking of which, I know you're not in charge of this, but how in any universe can we be making kids wear masks?
If it came to me, and I think it should have come to the board for a decision.
Right.
I don't know what that vote would have been, but if I had to vote on it, I would vote for masks right now. I hate them. They're disgusting. I hate wearing them. My kids hate wearing them. All the things people say. They're not 100% effective. You definitely can spread stuff through the mask. That's the whole reason why you can't die from carbon dioxide by having a mask on either. Otherwise, surgeons would not make it through a single surgery. Okay.
Whoa, all right, wait. All right, you want?
Hold on.
Wait. Do you know? Did you know?
Wait. What is the goal? Is the goal to be in school or not? Because I know that we'll
what's
have to
gonna
close
happen?
school if there's an influx in hospitalizations.
Hospitalizations.
That's what the whole thing is about. It's from the first
you
moment that I
know
started talking about it. It's under the
hospitalizations.
curve.
Really? Do you know how many children in Nevada have died from coronavirus?
I know that a lot have been sick and many have died. And many kids have died.
Really?
Let's see, a kid at my son's school died.
From coronavirus?
Yes.
Well, why does the CDC website
One of
say
my
none?
family friends, I don't know why, I'm not their marketing person. One of my family friends,
up the,
marathon runner, just died from a couple days ago from being on a ventilator.
All right, in the entire country, how many?
I'm not concerned about the country.
No, I know,
All I can
but-
do
but
is not
children
let
are
schools
not
get
at
closed
risk
down.
whatsoever.
That's wrong.
There's 75,000 children under the age of 18. How many children in this country do you think died from coronavirus?
You should ask me this question. I was sending you a bunch of sources. Maybe we can follow up on this.
I just have the CDC website. Do you have the picture up?
And it's not just about that. First of all, there's COVID long haulers. It's destroying respiratory systems. It's causing heart problems in kids.
Right. Kids are also getting diabetes and leukemia and
I
getting
agree
hit
with
by
that, but
cars
it's
while they're walking.
that's
to
not
class.
contagious.
The maximum, because they're saying a lot of the people that are on this list probably would have died from blood disorders or whatever disease comorbidities they had
Maybe.
anyway. But
First ones to go.
at a maximum, 350 children in the country have died. Now,
Even if that's true,
it's right there
how
on the
many
screen.
have gotten sick or how many have brought it home? And again,
We have hospitalizations on the thing as
again,
well. Kids
that's not
are
even.
not
If
getting.
I was going to vote for this, I would be going by
And the
our
masks don't help
ventilator
either.
and hospital capacity. The whole thing
Right.
has always been, we're all going to get it. We all have to get to herd immunity.
Right.
But we cannot strain our hospitals because when you get to a point, then we're out of resources.
hospitals are
I'll
not
tell you,
strong.
my best friend died in April of last year because she couldn't get in to get her a dialysis. It's my age. So, did she die of COVID? I don't know, but all the health practitioners did have it, and they couldn't get her appointment in time. And that's what we're risking. Women going into labor and dying of childbirth
Children
and car
are
accidents.
not vectors of the disease. They
But
don't
even
get
if they-
sick.
even if
they
they
don't
spread
go to the
it-
hot. They don't. That's what vector means.
You're
They
wrong.
don't.
Because, okay, everybody comes to the board meeting and goes, why don't you look at the research, the
Right,
data? I'm like,
350
I'm
kids.
reading every single thing that comes through, and I'm getting stuff from the health department and
Do you know
national
how many
stuff.
kids died of
the
pneumonia
council
in the
agreed to these
past 18
schools.
months?
I don't know.
1,100,
Okay.
which is about normal for the flu. For how many kids that die from the flu?
That's still unrelated.
350 kids have died from COVID. Like, it's not a problem for children
Even
whatsoever.
if that's true,
Whatsoever.
I do not want to close schools down. And the
Right.
best bet of not closing schools down is to make sure that we can give a good argument that it's not getting spread in schools
Right.
by masking
Schools
everybody.
have been open. Masks,
Minimum capacity.
masks have
And
not
in small
helped
groups.
anywhere. In any setting, in any country, in any state,
okay.
in any study. If there was any study that showed that masks made a 1% difference, we would see it.
You can look at the states that laxed their masks,
Right.
and their numbers rose. And that's
No,
basically
that's not
all.
true.
Okay, we're never going to get to an agreement on this, but I'll just say that my goal right now is to keep schools in session and not have to close them down or limit the amount of kids who can come to school.
Do you know there's
And I
a
would
5 and 6
take
year
all the
olds who are in
precautions.
kindergarten and first grade? Do you remember much before you were 5 years old?
My niece is starting kindergarten,
There you go.
and
She
her
has
ass is masking up,
her
and I don't like
whole
it.
entire life. Because from 3.5 to 5, I mean, you don't remember nothing when you're 2. Her whole life is human beings with masks,
So
staying
is-
6 feet apart
so is my
from each other.
niece.
This is
It is
this
what
is
I didn't
so
create
much more
COVID.
psychologically harmful than 350 kids
None
dying out
of
of
it is
75
good.
million.
Nobody's like, hey, what's the good option of this? They're all bad options. The vaccine is not good.
There's
It's a
no-
chemical. COVID is
Right.
not good. It puts you on a ventilator.
Right.
It takes away
Thank
our
God
hospital
it's not
supplies.
hurting our kids.
None of it is, and it is. So our data is different. What I am getting and what you're getting is different. Whether or not who's right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just saying that I'm going to do, going into school with all these unknowns and with cases rising, whatever I would need to do to ensure that schools will stay open is how I would vote. And
Well,
it's sad.
I agree with that. I mean, schools should be open, but I also believe kids should be able to hug each other and play with each other.
Completely agree. They're probably going to
Sit
have
at
to
lunch with
because
each
we
other.
don't have the space to social distance. So I'm sure it's going to happen. At the masks, the biggest
Teachers
thing,
wearing
the biggest
masks.
thing.
How do you teach when
Okay.
you're wearing a mask?
I bet you and I have just sent all sorts of spit particles
and
everywhere.
And luckily, you do not know if we could be in Wyoming, because we are in my basement. I haven't disclosed where my basement is. But if we happen to be in Nevada, in a particular part of Nevada that happens to be higher, are we supposed to be wearing masks now?
I should be wearing a mask if I'm going to go anywhere and be around like a ton of people. Because if you're carrying it, and right now I didn't make sure that you're not expelling spit particles at me,
Right.
then I'm going to go and expel spit particles at all these other people. But if you were masked and I was masked and I was like, stay a little bit over there, and then I could go around these people, and at least maybe some stuff's going to go through because that's how shit
Did
works.
you have COVID?
I have not.
Did you get vaccinated?
I did.
Oh, so
The vaccine only prevents from possibly getting COVID to an extent that puts you on a ventilator and becoming a strain in the hospital.
right.
It's never been against COVID in general. I'm probably
It's
going
just-
to I might have it right now.
No, the vaccine, which isn't a vaccine, it's actually a gene modifier, mRNA, which basically is like if you have a crosswalk, it's like putting up a flashing light also. So when you're driving, not only is there a crosswalk, but the flashing light is telling you, hey, there might be a pedestrian.
I agree
The
that it's not
mRNA
the best thing. It's not like
it's
no
just
one's
telling
no
your body
one's
to be
like
ready for it.
no one's like, hey, this is a B12 shot.
Right,
It's
right.
a bad option and bad option. Should I get a vaccine? I'm not really even. I don't love vaccines, quite frankly.
Right.
Should I get a vaccine? Should I get COVID and possible respirator? Let me think.
Right, and
Okay.
you have to make a decision.
I'm going to get the vaccine. I'm probably still going to get COVID, but I'm probably not going to get the ventilator. And I want to still want to make sure that I might be carrying it to somebody who can't get the vaccine because they're medically challenged for whatever reason. You know, don't believe in the science. Religious reason, not my part. You know, but I'm going to do my part to not spread it around.
Right.
And I don't want to be responsible for hospitals shutting down
Right.
and
You know, and I
closing
caught
schools.
it. I caught it November the very end of November, beginning of December, and not one person got it from me. You know, I mean, I take it serious. Oh, no, I know it.
You were asymptomatic for like 12 days before a symptom.
No, I know the day I caught it, and I locked myself down for 3 weeks instead of 2, just to be extra safe, because I work with kids and stuff like that. Locked it down for 3 weeks. I mean, I take it seriously. When I first suspected I had it and got that positive test, I mean, my wife didn't even catch it from me, and we live in the same house. I quarantined in my bedroom.
So even if...
And my 17-year-old son caught it, and he got a little sleepy for about an hour.
Okay. We're just
That
talking
was
about...
the extent of his coronavirus.
But we're going to talk about what schools look like and overcrowding. And even over summer, my daughter's on student council. She was quarantined for 10 days because she was exposed. Last month, a couple months ago, Desert Pines had 600 and something kids quarantined at one time. So if kids are not wearing masks, especially, and we find out a teacher had it or a bus driver, they're all going to be quarantined. So I'm going, what is the best precautions to prevent schools from closing down?
Right.
Masks. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what else to do.
I understand. Like, for example, it's not your fault they're even wearing masks, because the governor said, we're wearing masks, and everybody said, okay.
I wanted to instill masks before the governor did. I was like, don't stop waiting for him. Let's tell people it's masks.
But you're worried because of the repercussions of if somebody caught COVID.
Or didn't catch it, but...
Right, because the kids, again, trust me, they're not going to die.
Okay, well, I hope that...
I mean,
I have information you don't have that we can talk about separately.
Well, I have the numbers. They are 3 times more likely to die of the flu than of COVID over the past 18 months.
I would say, yeah, but when someone has the flu, they know within a matter of hours, and they usually self-quarantine. They don't have the flu for 12 days and walk around and pass it to everybody and go to school for a week.
My point is that it's not, and again, we have different opinions on how it affects kids, which changes our opinions on what to do. Because I understand your point is like, you know, let's just do whatever we have to do to keep schools open. My problem is not with you saying masks my problem is with them closing the school because some kid caught COVID.
I'm also going, why don't we have a backup plan of having to quickly go to distance learning that's not going to be horrible and it's going to keep families...
Of that? Some people are asking me, what are the chances of you guys shutting down?
It's all going to be based on what happens when schools open and whether or not we find out the kids are passing it or not. So, like, let's not do that. But even if we have to limit, 20% of kids must stay home or something. I mean, I'm always thinking ahead. And I've been asking the superintendent since day one, do you know that we're going to be doing this for probably 6 months? Do you know that that India is doing this and Italy just had this happen? And I mean, I hope that doesn't happen, but do we have a plan? Nope. We're waiting on the experts, which means he's waiting on his boss to tell all the superintendents what we're going to do next.
Union to tell the CDC what they want. They copied and pasted an email from the teachers union
They're
that went to
sketchy
the
as hell.
CDC saying this is what we would like to see.
Are you talking about national?
Copied and pasted it into official correspondence.
You're talking about the national.
Yeah.
I'm not going to disagray with that. But
our teachers. I'm talking about AFT and NEA.
Well, you know what? We got to protect our teachers. End of the story. Like, you don't have teachers, you don't have classrooms, you don't have students. Like, what do you want? Do you want school or do you not want school? We got to keep everyone safe. I wish there was a better option. Which crappy option are we going to go with?
The whole thing is
distance learning, closing schools, wearing masks, getting
We've
vaccinated.
had so many nice constructive
None of these are not a vacation.
Then we start talking about coronavirus and it all goes to shit because
story of my life.
Stupid. All right. Before we quit, I promised some people I would ask you some questions on their behalf. Hopefully we could do this in less than an hour.
We got to wrap it up a little bit because
it's only been 3 hours.
I know.
How did I know this would happen?
I could talk for 8 hours.
Let's go to our first question. It's from Sally Rhodes, Minster. She says, do you believe in breaking up CCSD, and if yes, why? Aren't they working on it? They've been talking about it since I was in middle school, since the mid-'70s.
I used to think that was possibly a good idea. And after becoming a trustee and seeing certain things, and especially seeing the way we could fix things, before even that being an option, my answer is no. But it's also because I think we could fix things by just the talent that we have if we got all these big contracts and people out of it. But also, it would be highly inequitable because if we take the same amount of money that we get every year for education, and now we'd have 5 superintendents and 5 board of trustees and 5 deputies and admin and all the whatever you spend on central. And the only reason I like this idea is to allow for teachers to be able to go work in other districts.
Right, and number one, it creates a little bit of competition that way. Also,
but we could just fix a district. Let's go there first. And well, then you have your lobbyists and you have your businesses and you have an area over here where the businesses donate to the schools.
You understand we have 50 states, right? And then that's supposed to be a laboratory of democracies. Like you try something here, let's see if it works.
But you're going to say it works in California and all these other, New York and all these places.
Yeah, but California is not Las Vegas.
We look different than every other city.
Right, so what if we had more districts here that could try? Let's throw in an anti-racist curriculum. Because so that way, if it doesn't do nothing, we're not going to invest money into some sort of program.
If somehow the federal administration was like, we are going to triple what the money we give you or state or whatever.
Triple? $5 billion isn't enough?
No, not for 320,000 kids and 40,000 teachers and actually, I mean, I told you, like, there's ways we can do money better. But if we had that flexibility to do what you're saying and try something and whatever, I wouldn't be completely against it, because if we don't and we're all fighting for the same crumbs that we already are, it's going to have my district's going to end up with a bunch more cooler stuff because my parents have way more money, businesses do, than other districts. That's just what it is. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want to go fight against that district for funding.
What about $10,000 a student?
Well, there's
That's it. Government. We're going to fund education, which is totally against the Constitution at all.
Yes, that's exactly what has to happen.
But just a voucher program. $10,000, not necessarily a voucher, but the money follows the kid.
So we get $6,000 per kid. New York gets $25,000. The average is $12,000. So yes, there should be a federal mandated minimum per pupil.
I mean, I disagree with that 100%, but they've turned it into a federal thing with Common Core, Bill Gates, progressive education. I agree. It should be a local thing. Or there should
be some sort of percentage. If you have this many kids, the minimum must be this. So that you can't just keep on taking money away.
Right, 10 grand.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's it.
That's a good place to start.
Right, your district has 1,000 students. You get $10 million or $100 million.
I mean, we do that already with the per pupil and how things are allocated, but it's only at 7.
But you're worried about equity.
But we need a minimum.
Property taxes and stuff like that. How about just a flat rate per student? That's it.
Well, we do that, but then so flat rate per student, if you have a school that's overcrowded, they're going to get more money. Obviously, they need more stuff. Right. It doesn't mean they have more classroom size.
But why would you send your kid to a school that was overcrowded?
How do we build more schools? How do we get more land? Why aren't we leasing buildings? Why aren't we buying there's a shopping center on Rainbow and Spring Mountain. Buy it up, put all these resource centers or trade, whatever. Why aren't we leasing this? Why didn't we buy Crystal Palace when it was for sale for $4 million? The Rio was for sale. That's probably too close to liquor or whatever.
Right.
It could have been a hospitality trade school. Yeah. So why aren't we doing all this stuff? Instead, we're just trying to keep doing the playbook that's going to keep on getting rich guys richer.
All right. We talked about this a little bit. This guy, Kevin Kuttner. He hates Katie Williams. I don't know if he used to support her and he feels abandoned or if he always hated her. But he's always talking about Katie Williams, at least for the past few months. So I said, what would you like to ask Danielle Ford? And he goes, why the heck is Trustee Williams so desperate for acceptance that she'd vote for a woke superintendent and not second Ford's motion for transparency? Will you approach Williams on the accountability and or corruption involved in Brooks and give Williams another chance to represent conservatives instead of aiding and covering up the apparent corruption? I replied, you did see the part where I'm not interviewing Katie Williams.
I don't know. That's a question for her psychiatrist or counselor.
That was a question for Ford. I want to know if she's going to keep trying on cleaning up the corruption or if she thinks Williams will continue to put up roadblocks.
Well, Williams is not the biggest problem. She's just the one who tells me to stop most. But yes, I will continue, and I am continuing, and I'm on my 3rd violation complaint right now in the matter of a few months, and they're so backed up, they're years backed up. So my hope is that soon the Ethics Commission and the Attorney General get to the little stack that I've got with my recent one has 1,800 pages of.
A Democrat, and you're saying Jar's company is a Democrat.
Yes, I mean I don't want to say Republican or Democrat because I don't want to.
And you don't know for sure.
There's Republicans I would say would be great for the superintendent position. This corporate agenda I would say that I would hope that the Attorney General and the Ethics Commission, whose job is to make sure people are ethical, would look at it. And I think he would.
Well,
he has to.
I
It's
mean,
just there's a lot of things on the table right now.
all right. Brittany Sheehan asks, and there's two of them, why you publicize rifts by publishing correspondence with your colleagues? And I said, can you elaborate and be a little more specific? And she said, it was the graphic she edited of their texts and a bunch of notes written all over it, plus a reference to Pokemon. Hope that helps.
Yeah.
And if you go back, I don't know if you have it set up that way, maybe you can't, but like 5 pictures ago that we never used is a picture of the things she's referring to.
Well, this is me being transparent, honestly. Like,
No.
there's many times where I wish I could just like explain the way that people act.
Yes.
There it is. Yeah.
So
And so
give
this
us a
comes
little
in
bit
my-
about this thing
This
right
is
here.
after like just having some issues like on the trustee issues about, hey, that you lied about this. Hey, you guess what? I'm putting on the record. You totally stole taxpayers' money basically by throwing away the work we did for weeks and then trying to slide it in last minute, your new policies that will control the whole district, over and over. And then so she emails me this. This is previous President Brooks.
Was she
In my
president at the
personal
time?
Facebook.
And because I think Brittany's problem is that she thinks you're violating a little bit of respect because Lola Brooks was texting you and you're.
That's first of all, she knows better than that. She knows to like email me so that it's public record. So the second that I even respond to that is my personal Facebook. And if they wanted to, which I wouldn't put it past them, there is them, requests for that.
So she might be messaging you thinking that you would respect.
Or I'm like,
privacy a little
okay,
bit.
we're doing this. Like, we're
Like,
not supposed
on
to
the
communicate on the side. If she wants to, she can bring it up to me. That's the whole point of being a trustee. We are not allowed to meet in private and talk about policy or anything like that. If she wants to have this conversation, do it on the record, which I've tried to, and she's shut down a million times.
You
and
said that.
She's closed meetings. She's ended meetings in the middle of it when I've tried to ask questions. Why is this happening? Why is this happening?
I moved
Why
to
didn't you
adjourn,
do your
I
job?
second, we're out.
Yeah. So now she wants to come at me with all this language, and I read through it, and I'm like, none of this is nice. She's being like gaslighting me. She's like, why are you so dumb that you know what I mean? And I'm like, I could either just ignore it or I could let people see exactly what she's sending me in a private message and give my reply to it. And so I did put on my little comments and I'm like, take it or leave it. And you know what? I don't care because I never said, please vote for me. I'm
Right.
super professional and whatever picture perfect you have of respectful. I am respectful. I'm not
But
rude to people,
this
but
should
I
be
will.
public record.
People deserve to see how other people are treating other trustees. And I put my responses so they can see how I treat her right back.
And I just want to let you guys know that we had a lot more to cover. We didn't get to everything because it's going on. How long are we at now? Did we hit 3 hours? Almost. All right. So we're going to finish up. This is the last message.
Okay.
This is Alex Rodriguez. And he asked an awesome question. How you would feel if a mob of students and parents just simply didn't wear their mask? There's a possibility that's coming. How will you handle RPCs and suspensions if they want to, if just everybody just shows up and says, I'm not wearing a mask, I've had it?
Well, I do know that there's a big push for that, and if people are planning on it, and that I see all this stuff too. People send it to me, so there's nothing I don't see, and I don't see the conversations about the plans, and that they're gonna whatever with the board, and I hope that it doesn't happen, but I would hope that that it would set, and I hope that somebody would make an example and be like, I'm sorry, but you got to go home. Like this is a rule. It's like coming to school and only pasties. Like you have to. There's a dress code.
Well, what if
You got to go to the health office or whatever. Your parents are going to pick you up. And I would hope that if half the school does it,
half the school.
then you do it for half the school. And we're going to do this every day. You're
But
the one who said you wanted
AB
school.
168 just said that we would never get rid of a student.
Expelling. You can't expel them. You can,
You
whatever
can't
it
suspend
is.
them either. You can't suspend kids anymore, especially in
Okay.
middle school and lower.
There's, whatever it's going to be, whatever.
You can't fit
Whatever
half
it
the
is
school
for
in
dress
school
code.
suspension.
What do they do for dress code? The administrator tells the parents to pick them up. Type
Right,
thing.
so what if the whole half the school showed up with no shirt on? all the boys in the school showed up with no shirt on.
I would assume that they would do that same thing.
But you have restorative justice where you can't send kids home every day.
You can call the parents and be like, "Here you go."
And the parents
they
are like,
give
no,
you a
I
shirt.
told my kid not to wear a shirt.
I mean, I don't know because this is me speculating,
I
but
know. I know you're not the assistant principal. It's just Alex's Rodriguez. And
I know that it's going to be a thing, and I have been asking about it. What are we going to do? But I would hope that these parents who are doing this would consider that it's going to be disruptive for all the kids in school. And I'm under the belief that you want school to be open. So why are you disrupting and putting your kids in a weird position to be that kid? Like,
right.
If they have a legit medical issue, of course, and then they should be accommodated and then please, like, can we sit you to the side?
Yeah.
Or are you going to be like demanding that they sit in the center of the classroom? If you do that, then don't tell me that you care about education and your kids' education, because you're making them distraction.
Becoming a spectacle.
Like, come on, like, let's just do this as best as we can.
I mean, this is since I first met you and since I've been following you. It's crazy how, number one, we disagree on some stuff, we agree on some stuff. And a lot of the stuff we disagree on, the more we talk, we realize, like for coronavirus, I'm not upset with your mask policy. I'm upset with the fact that you're trying to avoid these punitive things to keep schools open. And I hate the punitive things. It's not this,
I do too, yeah.
Because if the punitive crap wasn't there, then you probably would be like, all right, then don't wear a mask, don't wear a mask. You've been vaccinated, now, you do what's best for you.
Or educate people.
Number one thing is to keep the schools open, and how can I argue with that? We talk about, say, CRT, and you're saying, oh, well, I think kids should be learning about MLK and Roots and Andrew Jackson and Thomas Jefferson.
Black
I say,
Wall
I
Street.
do too. Mm-hmm.
And I will punish. I want to punish kids who go after white kids for calling them KKK for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Like, yeah. And
you realize, and that's why I love having guests like you or anybody on, is that when we get to know each other better and we are more humanized, just because you're for increasing anti-racist awareness about some things that I believe in, slavery, the slave triangle, whatever the case may be, that's what you want. You don't want teachers going in and saying white man bad, black kid oppressed.
Right, yeah.
And you realize that when we start talking to each other, and the fact that you are so on both sides of the fence about everything, there's no way you could question your motives except you're trying to do what's best for the kids. So I applaud you for that. I really think you're awesome. And I disagree with a lot of stuff, and I still think you're awesome. So
the feeling is mutual.
I'll take that.
Thank you, and I'm welcome. I'm happy to come back anytime there's a new crisis to yell about.
Yeah, and maybe if we could talk to Katie and have a little.
I will be happy with that. I have questions.
Debate. Yeah. And maybe get to know each other a little bit better.
Oh, I talked to Katie a lot before, she voted against me for vice president, and then I even wrote her a text message that said, hey, I want to let you know that really hurt my feelings.
Right, let's be real, let's talk.
I was under the impression you were going to support me. Why didn't you? And then she really was like, oh, it's not personal type thing, and then all of a sudden she's on Team Lola and they're a dynamic duo and everything is against me, and the only thing I can think is that Jara promised her something. I could be wrong. That's what it seems like to me.
Well, on that note, let's start at the end and end with the beginning. Very good. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us for our quick little sound bite. I know you guys love these 5-minute videos. That's what you guys keep telling me to do, and I just gave you 3 hours of Danielle Ford. Thanks so much for coming on.
200 videos.
And we can't wait till you come back.
Thank you.
My name is John Brookhagen. This is the Johnny Brew Show. Thank you to robslist.org. Thanks to my producer. Thanks to the mathinstitute.com. And most of all, thanks to Danielle Ford. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.